I would like to think, and I'll to my own major's horn a little bit, that it is a great discipline to try to understand like how stuff works and to have
Mm-hmm.
the confidence to build, right? Like a lot of, you know, like when a farmer digs a crop out of the ground, the world is one crop richer. No one got poorer
Right.
for that, right? You might argue
Right.
that on net the environment suffers a little bit, but you can like there's a way to fix that. When a carpenter fixes a desk, the world is one desk richer. No one got poorer. But a lot of the stuff that the investment banker that you talk about, his skill
Yeah.
set is not about wealth creation. His skill set is about winning zero sum games, um,
Yep.
right? Like I can outsell that guy. He'll lose, I win, and then like all of finance is zero sum. Finance doesn't exist if the world didn't make stuff, if everyone else didn't plant stuff and farm stuff and build stuff. So I think it helps to have that perspective built in because implicitly what you're saying by starting a startup is I want to make stuff. Like I want to
Mm-hmm.
play a non zero sum game, create wealth, and capture some for myself. If you want to
Right.
play a zero sum game, the most ambitious thing you can do is become a hedge fund manager, and just go to Wall Street, right? Um,
Yeah.
and so I think that perspective is helpful because then if everyone around you has that same perspective, you can kind of sit there for a while and not get sucked away by the cynicism of what people think capitalism is but what it
Right.
really could be, um, which is building stuff. And
Right.
um, like I've noticed though that among the founders I talk to who are ahead of me, the
Yeah.
ones who still want to start another business all say my next one is not going to be software. Oh my god.
Right.
Like I will start
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
plants trees where like, locally like we have Jim Estel who's very very publicly running a fridge company, Danby, while starting another delivery company, Shipperbee, and this guy is already way more wealthy than anyone ever needs to be if they didn't want to work.
Right.
And he made all of his money in tech and in RIM and companies before RIM. And yet, what he's doing now is traditional manufacturing. So
Right.
I think, you know, to me, the grass is just greener. Maybe I think they actually know something that I don't about the
Yeah.
dynamics of it. And if all the smart people are running this way, you kind of want to go that way and see what they left behind. Um,
Right. Right.
and I think we'll have a lot more opportunity in biotech and manufacturing. Like that stuff's not going away either.
Right. You're a big advocate for doing things that don't scale. And so I feel like you kind of just walked into that territory right now. Can you explain that philosophy and what you mean by that? Because, for us on social media, when we talk to other founders or things like that, or people who want to start a business, they're always like, I need to find something and I need to scale it up and make $1 million or something crazy like
Right.
that, right? So that philosophy is almost counterintuitive to everything that we see everywhere. Not to say that it's wrong. So I want to understand your point on that.
Well, so maybe it's more like you should settle for things that don't scale if you can't find something that does scale that no one else has done yet. And
Right.
I
Right.
suspect that everything that does obviously scale, um, people have done, like it's already been done. Um,
Right.
and then you look at like the really big wins, like you look at Airbnb, you look at Stripe. What they did is obviously scalable now, but in the early days, like they were renting out their own living room couch on
Yeah.
their own platform and then flying out to New York to help the first listers take better photos of their apartment because they couldn't do it by themselves. Stripe was even more crazy. Like the Stripe's basically their value proposition is we make it easy for you to take credit cards online on your website. And
Yeah.
the problem is the banks didn't. And the banks certainly didn't care to work for Stripe with Stripe to make it easy. So Stripe had a person waiting outside the bank branch to run inside based on a web form order on their website, and they ran inside, created an account, ran back outside, typed in the information, and they faked it. Um, and they did that for long enough until the bank said, okay, this is actually a pretty good source of revenue for us. So like, we'll give you an API, right? We'll give
Right.
you like an actual way in. Um,
Right.
all those things don't scale. Like MappedIn was building custom directory interfaces for shopping centers that differentiate themselves on the smallest of things. So and that definitely didn't seem scalable to even to some of us. But to me, the underlying thing was, well, the mapping tools are scalable. Like if we can prove it
Right.
out with this category, we can make it useful for the U.S. government one day. I didn't really see that coming, but that's a pretty big one. Um, and and I think it's okay to do things that don't scale because frankly, your other alternative is to work for the man, that doesn't really scale either, right?
Right.
So it's okay to work for yourself on something that doesn't scale, as long as you're willing to look for something that does and then react quickly to that opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's an incredible perspective, especially for young entrepreneurs who are trying to kind of build something of their own and understand how to enter that world. With that in mind, what would be like your best piece of advice to that world of people approaching business and approaching these problems, given all this?
Oh boy. Well, so if you distill all of that stuff, which is start a project, do things that don't scale, that probably won't work anyway, and make something which is going to be harder than playing a zero sum game. Like you ultimately get down to like you better like this thing that you want to do anyway for some reason that is
Right.
to someone else irrational. Um, and then the cliche way of saying that is do what you love, which I think so many of us discount because we feel like our parents did us a disservice by telling us to do that as a generation, and then
Right.
so many of us are now, like the, all the jokes about millennials. It's it's well intentioned. You do have to work really hard, and there are most days that you don't will not love whatever you choose to do. But on balance, you have to like doing this thing that most of your friends really wouldn't do, um,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to be successful in a strange way. Because otherwise, you're doing what everyone else does, and that's okay, right? Like that's my mom still wants me to be a doctor, I'm sure, and I'm sure that's a great outcome for anyone who's doing that. Um, so so yeah, I mean, take your time, figure out something you really like doing. Make sure it's not something that everyone else really likes doing too, because then it's not that special.
Right.
And then dig into that, find out why.